Nothing screams Memorial Day weekend like going to the movies with your family, your friends, your loved one. But this year's a little different because we have a little thing called COVID-19 and it's still around. So we're going to talk about the top 10 highest grossing movies on Memorial Day weekend because I am missing movie theaters so much. Okay, let's get into it. What's going on, you guys? James here, and yes, I cannot stand these cars, I swear. What's going on, you guys? James here, and yes, today we're talking all about the top 10 highest grossing movies on Memorial Day weekend, and trust me, there are a few here that are gonna shock the living heck out of you because I know one of them definitely did. I just keep looking at it every time I look at my iPad. And yes, movie theaters are still closed, so this is the closest I'm gonna get this weekend to talking about movie theaters or movie theaters in general. Gosh, I miss them so much. Oh, and okay, if you're wondering, yes, I'm wearing my custom Oakland A's jersey, baby. Let's go. Nothing screams Memorial Day weekend like some baseball, which is also postponed. Okay, well, there's a lot of things that's, kind of being thrown into the back burner during this pandemic, but one thing that isn't stopping is this channel. You guys are fantastic, so before we get started, if you found yourself here for the first time at Real James, welcome, welcome, welcome. We talk all about movies, I review them early, we react to trailers, and I talk about TV shows as well. I mean, this week alone, we're diving into so many things, so let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Monday, I'm dropping my review for The High Note, so that comes out this weekend, but the studio was kind enough to give me a screener early. I love you guys so much and all the studios for really stepping up, just like Netflix, because they also sent me Space Force, and let me tell you guys, Space Force is something that we're going to talk about on Tuesday, because I'm still under embargo. It gets me every time, I know. So if you like what you hear and what you see, again, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe below and smash that like button. Also get loud in the comments, guys. Which of these top 10 highest grossing films surprised you the most? There's literally one that I just keep glancing at, and it is the most surprising film on this list. Alrighty, guys, so let's get right into it. The 10 highest grossing movies that have debuted on Memorial Day weekend. Of course, first off, before we get started, happy Memorial Day if you're watching this on Monday. And second of all, this is a list from thenumbers.com. Now, I love Box Office Mojo, but there's a paywall now, so it's tougher to get really specifics. Such a funny way to say it. But thenumbers.com broke everything down, and what's great is that they adjusted for inflation. So it's really just going to give you that frame of mind as if the movie were to be released today and where it ranks. So let's go ahead and start with number 10, a movie that is actually a sequel to a film I loved, and this sequel was just absolutely awful. The Hangover Part 2, which made $97.4 million. I get it. I know why it made so much money, and I also know why people were really craving a sequel, because the first one is so funny. Bradley Cooper, Zach Galifianakis. I mean, there's so much to really love about this film. But then you get into The Hangover Part 2, and it's them going to Thailand, if my memory serves me correctly, and it's just not funny at all. I mean, everything seems so dried out, and it's almost like they've ran their course. The Hangover for me was really a lightning in a bottle effect, and yes, the studio needed to make a sequel because the first movie grossed so much at the box office, but Part 2 was a critical failure in my opinion. Oh, and how could I forget about Ed Helms? Dude was legendary in The Hangover. But yeah, again, so disappointed in Part 2, but it did make a lot of money. So let's go ahead and move on to number 9. 2014's X-Men Days of Future Past, which is a title I thought I was going to mess up and I didn't. I'm so thankful. That grossed $98.2 million. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, the movie on first watch was really fun, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. The only thing is, I watched it again, and it's a little bit more problematic, and I don't necessarily love it. I just think that these X-Men films really were kind of dry after a while, and now I really understand why everyone wants an MCU X-Men film sooner rather than later. And I get it, because you want a fresh approach. 20th Century Fox, before it was of course bought out by Disney, had a good run from X-Men, X-Men 2, X-Men 3 was really bad, but then you started to see, the Wolverine and stuff, and even Logan. I know I didn't like the film. It was really critically received very positively. Not from me though. I thought it was more disappointing than anything, but I still think, those films were just fine, and some of them were even excellent, and I don't know what went wrong with Days of Future Past on the second watch, but I just know that I think I was tired of the formula, because there definitely is a formula here. I mean, it made a lot of money because it's a superhero film on Memorial Day weekend. If honestly we were to go down the list, there are so many movies here that have made so much money on Memorial Day weekend, and I just can't believe some of them were even left off this list, so it's super surprising. Alrighty, so moving ahead to number 8, The Day After Tomorrow in 2004. Oh, that movie's so bad. It made $99.9 million. And I mean, okay, the director of Independence Day, and you know, it's a disaster film, Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, I get it, and Dennis Quaid, you know, he's cool. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I remember exactly where I was and who I was with when I saw that film opening weekend. And it was with my cousin, and we figured it's a holiday weekend, why don't we go see something fun? And we did. It was bad, really bad. And I remember watching it with my cousin, and we walked out and we thought, hey, we were smiling during some of these disaster sequences, like, you know, that crazy, like, hail, I think in the beginning of the film or something like that. And I get it, there's some intrigue in the premise, but man, it was just such a painful experience because of exactly how it ended. And man, it was just so predictable and boring. And yeah, it didn't really introduce anything new to the disaster film genre, but hey, it made a lot of money opening weekend, so good for it. Now, this is actually the most surprising film on the list for me. Coming in at number 7, 2003's Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey, which made $101.7 million on Memorial Day weekend. And it's not that I don't like the film at all, right? There are some redeeming factors to it, like some of the humor is actually kind of good. The only thing is, when I saw it as a kid, I loved it. And then I rewatched it as an adult, and I thought it was kind of crappy. And honestly, it doesn't necessarily click with me anymore, and maybe that's because my sense of humor has changed in a sense, but I do think Bruce Almighty has some moments that I'll like probably carry on with me for the rest of my life. I mean, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Isn't that like a line from the movie?
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. You know, I think there might be something to this cookie line.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's still a decently enjoyable comedy. It's not the worst thing you can throw on if you're on an airplane or if you're, you know, just scrolling through TV and there's nothing else playing. But Bruce Almighty is definitely not the best film I've ever seen, and definitely not the best comedy I've ever seen. So yeah, for it to be grossing that much money, you know, for Memorial Day weekend, Jim Carrey is, I guess he's just still such a star. I mean, he was really great in Sonic the Hedgehog, don't get me wrong, but in Bruce Almighty, it's At number 6 is Shrek 2 in 2004, grossed $104.9 million, and oh gosh, guys, the first Shrek is so awesome. I mean, it's a huge part of my childhood, and even the ride at Universal is still really dope. But man, Shrek 2 is, I think, animated better. The only thing is, I don't think the jokes hit home as much as the first film. The writing is much better in the first movie, but Shrek 2 is still a worthy sequel, and I still laugh at some moments. Yes, yeah, I mean, it's still very enjoyable. I mean, it's kind of neat to think back at where I was when I first saw Shrek, and then Shrek 2, and Shrek 3 was not very good, but I'm not gonna lie, guys, it's still an enjoyable experience. Not really surprised to see it that highly. I mean, it's an animated movie, Memorial Day weekend, and freaking Mike Myers, and Cameron Diaz, and Eddie Murphy, legends. Coming in at number 5 is Fast and Furious 6 in 2013 with $110.049 million. I didn't know how to properly transition into that, I'm sorry. But Fast and Furious 6 is amazing. It's not as good as Fast 5, but I think the action is ramped up. I mean, they probably had a bigger budget, I'd imagine. I mean, these movies are just box office busters. I was actually really shocked to see it at number 5 and not closer to the top 3 because of how much hype is around this. But remember, these are domestic box office numbers. Worldwide, it must have done much better. The thing is, it makes me so much sad for Fast 9. More sad, I can't speak properly, I'm in my feels right now, because Fast and Furious 6 was definitely a shocker, especially that ending, when we find out how Han died and who did it. Oh man, I'm just saying, Fast and Furious franchise is unreal, okay? So I don't want to hear any slander in the comments, but if you do slander, it's okay. I'll just tell you that it's one of the best franchises ever, so okay, we're gonna move on to number 4. This film is awful. The worst Indiana Jones movie, by far. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which made $125.9 million in 2008. Oh my gosh, I saw that movie with my dad, and we saw it at a small local theater, and we figured, okay, it's Indiana Jones, man. It's Harrison Ford, Shia LaBeouf. You can't go wrong, right? You can go 110% wrong. The writing is schlocky. To start, the direction is, well, directionless, and it feels more so like a studio film than a genuine entry into the Indiana Jones franchise. And then you have swinging on the vines with monkeys, CGI monkeys that were just horribly CGI'd. And how did this movie get made, guys? I have no clue, but it made a lot of money, so I guess there's that. I can definitely wait for the next Indiana Jones film. I can wait for a long time. We gotta call it quits after this one. Okay, let's go ahead, look at number 3, and just clear our minds. Oh gosh. Coming in at number 3 is 2006's X-Men The Last Stand, which grossed $141.6 million on opening weekend. This film is atrocious. It's disrespectful. It really is just one of those movies that just slaps you right in the face and you think, how in the world did we go from X2 to X-Men The Last Stand? I felt the CGI was really distracting. The story was mishandled. I mean, you have to deal with Phoenix in a better way. It just didn't really click at all for me. It fired on no cylinders, but it made a lot of money because X-Men 2 is the best of those original X-Men films, and I get it, they wanted to piggyback off the success of the second film, and this was always going to be a trilogy probably from the jump, and gosh, I wish it was just so much better because I left the theater and I remember clearly being disappointed and thinking to myself, maybe it plays better on a second viewing. Popped it in at home and I just wish I'd never played it a second time. Just got me mad all over again. But it's very interesting to see where audiences gravitate towards, the big action movies or animated films, or just a ton of sequels, which is the majority of this list, especially with our top 2. Coming in at number 2 is 1997's 90s babies, stand up. The Lost World, Jurassic Park. It grossed $141.9 million. And okay, listen, guys, let's set the record here. It's not the worst Jurassic Park film. We saw 3 and we saw, the second Chris Pratt Jurassic Park. It's not good. But listen, it's, it's a decent film. It's not the best. I really do kind of feel similarly with how Jurassic Park was versus The Hangover in a weird way, right? I'm not saying both of those films are equal. Jurassic Park is close to my Mount Rushmore of films. But listen, Jurassic Park was really a lightning in the bottle effect, and I think the sequel proved that, because I didn't necessarily love The Lost World at all, and if anything, it kind of fell flat for the most part, because the previous film set such a high bar, and this one just felt like more of the same, and not the most unique way. It just felt lazy. Is that okay to say? It just kind of felt lazy. It made a lot of money though, because Jurassic Park is the ish, and it's such a great film, and I'd imagine, that's why people still hold on hope for these new Chris Pratt Jurassic Park films. Might be a video for another day. Alrighty guys, we're here. The number 1 highest grossing film that was released on Memorial Day weekend. It is 2007's Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. It made $150.5 million, and I'm not mad at the original 3 Pirates of the Caribbean films. I remember vividly owning The Curse of the Black Pearl on DVD and watching that movie multiple times. I mean, Johnny Depp is great, Orlando Bloom is awesome, Keira Knightley is wonderful, and then the sequel comes out 3 years later, and I still felt strongly about this series. And then a year afterwards, so I mean, they must have filmed these back to back to back. I mean, that's a lot of filming for them. But At World's End is not awful, it's just, you can tell it was on its way out. And then they went ahead and made, I think, 2 more? Awful. They're just crap movies. But At World's End is not the worst sequel on this list, honestly. I think it's still fun, and I'm okay with it, being number 1, because Pirates of the Caribbean is a franchise that I still stand by, that it's a good original trilogy. Everything after that is not good at all. But listen, I've watched those movies so many times because they're so good, and I mean, the scale is huge. You can tell, like, shooting on location helped a ton, and At World's End felt like a sweet send-off, I want to say. I mean, that would have been a cool way to just end it. I would be so happy if they didn't make any more Pirates movies, but apparently they're trying to film another one, or they don't know if they're going to bring back Johnny Depp or not. What a mess that whole ordeal was. But yes, Pirates of the Caribbean At World's End is number 1 on the list of highest grossing films released on Memorial Day weekend. So if you skipped all the way to the end to hear the top 10 list, let's go ahead and review. Number 10, The Hangover Part 2. Number 9, X-Men Days of Future Past. I keep messing that up. Number 8, The Day After Tomorrow. Number 7, Bruce Almighty. Number 6, Shrek 2. Number 5, Fast and Furious 6. Number 4, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Number 3, X-Men The Last Stand. Number 2, The Lost World Jurassic Park. And number 1, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Well, there you have it, you guys. Those are the 10 highest grossing movies released domestically on Memorial Day weekend. Some surprises, some that aren't so surprising, but if you have to ask me what the best movie on the list is, Fast and Furious 6. Don't come for me. Again, don't do it. If you enjoyed going through this list with me, guys, and you want to see more just like this, go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 2,000. And don't forget to go ahead and tap the bell just to stay up to date with everything new that I drop. Smash that like button and comment down below and let me know which film on here is your favorite. I mean, you already know mine, and my least favorite, for sure. Like I said, we got a few reviews dropping this week. It's going to be so fun. I'm almost done with book 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's something special, guys, so expect a review for that one as well. Alrighty, guys, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.